Well, it's the last week in February now when we're due for some snow. So what I've noticed is my Blackthorn sloes are actually in full blossom, as you can see. Bought quite a few of these, but I pruned them very hard and I fed them with bloodfish and bone and some chicken manure, poultry manure pellets. And the pruning's paid off because now, as you can see, I've got a whole line of them in blossom, but there aren't enough pollinators around. So today I'm just going to go around for a few minutes with my trusty little, well, these are from Jane actually, the makeup brush, and that's a watercolour brush. And I'm going to just spread some pollen around to see if this improves the crop. So basically I'm just going to get some pollen. What you do is you brush the flower, so you basically just brush pollen with your makeup brush, whatever it is, and then you've got to brush the pollen into the middle of the flower. These are self-fertile, so they're not wind pollinated, they need insects, but it's so cold, well, for England, that I don't think that these might not pollinate in time. We've got snow due, so I'll have a go today. So off I go, playing bumblebee again, with my trusty little pollinating brush, as you can see. So there I am, dusting along the outside. That's where the male parts are, and then you've got to find the female part. In this one it looks quite green in the centre of this flower. This one below here, dust and pollen. It's self-fertile, but that doesn't mean to say it's going to fertilise itself without a pollinator. So I'm playing pollinator today. Beautiful sunshine, but just on a wind chill factor, it's only about 3 to 4 degrees centigrade. So I'm getting the pollen from the outside, as you can see, and then dusting it across the middle. And I can do it a lot better, obviously, if I'm not holding the camera. But there you go, you get the idea. You might improve your crop by doing that just for 10 minutes. I'm very pleased about this. It really is an awesome little crop. I do hope that the snow doesn't come too bad here, because I imagine it'll blast most of this work that I'm doing away. But Blackthorn is very hardy and very much part of the UK landscape. If you're driving around the UK or walking around the countryside or cycling around and you see this on the bushes, you tend to see early cherry blossom. That's the flowering cherries, and this stuff. There are also other winter flowering plants, non-native and native, but the Blackthorn is classic stuff in the UK. It's beautiful to see. And of course, if you do like to pick sloes in the countryside, and I sometimes have been known to, you can make a note of where they are, and I always have a piece of paper and a pencil handy for where I drive about, because obviously when everything is in full bloom and then goes to berry, you can forget where the sloes are, and they're only little things. So make a mental note, make a little note on a piece of paper where you see these, and then you can come back in the late autumn and get yourself some sloes. So with the sloes, there's lots of things you can do with them besides sticking them into the gin, including making jam. Incidentally, Blackthorn sloe does have quite a lovely sort of scent to it. It's quite gentle, really. It's not overpowering. It's not heady. But you know, if you put yourself up there, yeah, it's not very lightly perfumed, but quite pleasant. So early blossom. The first blossom that we see in the UK is usually this in the countryside where I live, and so to cultivate it is nice. This variety here bought as a hedging plant from Wilko's actually, so look out for if Wilko do hedging plants, because they do big bundles. Been in about 6-7 years now, and this is the first time I've had heavy blossom, but I've pruned it back hard to get the blossom and fed it properly. This year, despite all the wind and rain, the rhubarbs are still fighting through. It's quite a resilient crop, isn't it, rhubarb? And these have been fed with bloodfish and bone, and I've also used a general poultry manure pellets around them. They're quite young, these rhubarb here. They've only been in, but this is their 3rd season, so I didn't crop them very heavily last year. And this year, of course, I should be able to take a few more rhubarb stalks, but they're coming on fine. Along this line of the jobs we've been doing, which includes red currants, these grow better on the older wood. This is basically to open up the crown and cut back to an outward facing bud. You have to remove 1/3 of the wood coming along these, and then the next to the red currants here are our black currants. These are quite leggy, but black currants grow on the younger wood, so you've got to encourage some up. So the idea is to leave some of the younger ones there and open it up a bit. Okay, so there's some black currants there. That's another one of my Blackthorn sloes there, younger one, and so that's been done. We haven't quite given up on the Goji, because after about a good 6 or 7 years, the Gojis are now suddenly sort of giving us a bit of a crop. So pruned it once right at the end after it's finished flowering, got a few berries on it, and then pruned it again, and now just came back yesterday and pruned it one more time. It could do with even more actually. It's gone pretty mad, and I've planted a few more around. But Goji is a great screening plant. I think it's great for wildlife to hide in, because the wild cats that live on the allotments, they don't like it, so birds, young baby birds, can hide underneath it there with impunity. From the most challenging bit has been pruning the gooseberries, because they do have to have a lot of their inner sort of crown removed. So you've basically just got a supporting structure of these branches, try and make them facing outwards, and there's an example of one which I think we've done a better job at this year than we did last year. Too many, as you see, there's so much to remove in the crown on gooseberries. You just need quite a few of these outer branches leading out, and mostly on the older wood. You can encourage a little bit of younger wood, but really prune back hard, because we found with dense gooseberries, if you didn't, you get no crop at all. So here's an example of one we were hoping we were going to get a better crop than last year. And although it looks pretty stark, we'd rather have a medium to small crop than just a dense bush with only gooseberries on the outside. So you don't prune them totally back. As you can see, you leave some young wood there, that's last year's season's growth, and 2-year-old wood and 3-year-old wood there. Our Tame Berries, we leave a lot of the last year's growth on them, because they will carry on fruiting on the 1-year-old wood. So your instincts would be to prune them right back, but we have taken 1/3 of them off. And this one's next to a eucalyptus tree, and it does crop very nicely. There's a number of them growing, as you can see. It's got some younger ones. There's a younger one there growing next to it. There, as you see, if I just take you there. So basically that's what we do with our Tame Berries. We just tie them to poles, as you can see there, and we'll take off too much excess there, and it'll do quite well. And probably not get so many as we had last year, but the idea is to give them a bit of a rest here. We've really enjoyed also taking some bay leaves back. The bay is very, very aromatic on these heavy clay soils. Herbs grow really well, so if you do have heavy clay soils, don't give up. You don't have to have raised beds. I mean, it's nice if you do, but we don't. So you get these very aromatic herbs such as bay trees, and also of course rosemary grows extremely well. One of my cuttings actually took from bay, and I know it's notoriously difficult to grow from cutting, but one has taken on the other plot out of about 20 I tried. And this is a female one, this one, as you can see if I bring you up. These are like sort of a flower structure in the bay, and they will then develop into berries, and you can crop the berries, and I think you can use them in your culinary things as well. This is what I'm doing with some of my summer fruiting raspberries, and that you can see there's lots of young growth coming up. And basically what we do, we haven't used a trellis, we just use lots of single canes and get this lovely plant types. We got these from Poundland. They're brilliant, and you can just cut them. They come in long lengths. Basically we just tie the branches to our canes, as you can see, leave some of last year's season and cut the rest really quite low, but it's coming up really well. I've given this plenty of blood, fish and bone, and I will go along with some multi-purpose liquid fertiliser as well over the next coming weeks and feed everything, because if you've got soil like ours and you're not doing raised beds, you're going to have to feed your plants just that bit more, because I haven't dug in any horse manure. Try not to harm the worms too much, basically. As I said earlier, on heavy clay soils such as in the Midlands and the UK, herbs and wild things grow very well, so you can harvest that yourself, and why not tap into it? So I grow some elderflower. It's a strange sort of half tree, half bush, but you always get beautiful elderflower. You can make your elderflower cordial, your elderflower wine, and then the berries as well, you can use them to make jams. This one, I've pruned it right back, as you can see, so I've basically just got some nice outward facing buds, and it's a very sort of dense and branchy plant, but that's what it likes. It likes being quite wild, and it's quite uncouth, if you like. I mean, defiant of all the seasons. And at the back of the plot there's a very old elder there as well. The birds nest in that. It's a good place for them to get away from predators and hide from the hawks. Time of year, of course, to propagate your blackberries. So if you find a nice long old blackberry bush, it's got plenty of stalks on it, then take a long cutting off the branch and you should be able to get lots of cuttings. Got my little bypass loppers here, so having a look at this branch, just take care here, make sure you've got the buds, as you can see, that's facing upwards, so that's the way it should go in to the ground. I mean, they can take either way, blackberries. They seem to be able to root in the ground and form roots if they touch the ground, but it makes it easier if you have the buds facing upwards. So I would cut about a good 6 inches below this bud, a nice straight cut, and then there's another bud on the side there, so you get another cutting about 6 inches below that. So off a branch like this, which is about, I don't know, 5 feet long, I might be able to make 6 or 7 cuttings and just put them straight into the ground. I dig a little hole for them. Water if it's dry, but at the moment it's not. It's the complete opposite in the UK. And put them up against a fence or something, because it grows better as a young wood blackberries. I keep propagating them all the time, as they get older the crop gets less. Of course, if you don't want to put these cuttings into the ground straight away, just put them into an old bucket of water, as long as you've got 3 or 4 inches of the stalk above the water, and over the next few months they'll start to root. I've done that before. Sometimes I've left them, forgotten about them, and next year put them into the ground and they've got loads of roots on them, because such is the nature of blackberries. But this is the best time of year while they're dormant for your cutting. So some of these haven't got space. I'll just use some old chicken manure container with some rainwater in and leave them in that. Don't drown them, but you know, make sure they've got 3 or 4 inches of water at the bottom. It's nice to see the comfrey in flower as well in late February. Hopefully this will bring some pollinators onto my plot and help me with my blackthorn sloes. Obviously other creatures such as ladybirds overwinter in these and provide a great resting place for other small creatures, including things like, you know, small mammals. And what I tend to do after doing all the pruning, some of the cuttings I'll save some of them and put them into water, which includes some of the blackberry I showed you earlier. Those that I'm not going to put into the ground, you can just heel them into the ground if you like, but I find they can root very easily in water. The rainwater will keep topping this up. I've put about 3 or 4 inches, and I've tried this experiment in a previous year if you've seen my videos, and after about a year these will root and you can just plant them out next year. Just keep the water topped up. Put a bit of plant food in the water occasionally, but not overdone. So there you've got some gooseberries, some red currants, some black currant and some blackberries all in one little pot. Incidentally, for those of you who grow Mirabelles, you won't need reminding, by February the blossom's out. This one's hit and miss, and it borders over my side as well. I've actually propagated this because it grows through onto my allotment, and the blossom's out, probably been out about a week, and there's probably another half of it to come out, so that's half the blossom, and then I suppose after the snow the rest of the blossom will come out. No sign of any pollinators at the moment, but I could be wrong. Maybe in the morning some pollinators are about. I just think it's a little bit cold for the moment, but Mirabelle, there you go, it's out. Plum. Oh, looks like all the starlings are getting together. There's the beautiful crescent moon up there. There they go. Just starting a sort of mini murmuration over there, over the allotment. Beautiful. We get some feeding in our gardens. Just building up the flock. There's a nice crescent moon there for the astronomers among you. On the other side of the field there's a vast flock of crows have just joined in as well. Just disappearing there off into the horizon. There you go, you can see some of the crows just there, wheeling about. There's hundreds of them. There they are, back of that bush there, maybe about a kilometre away from there. So as the starlings start to form their murmuration, it's nice to see a nice beautiful bit of blossom here. Again, more blackthorn sloe here. I got this from a hedging plant, as I told you, from Wilkinson's, and then at the background there, as you can see, I've got my rhubarbs coming up nicely. I just gave it a really good feed of bloodfish and bone last time I came down, and before that, before the winter really set in, I put some chicken poultry manure pellets on it, so it's just popping up now, as you can see, along there, right on the air. And of course at the end you can just see some catkins there. I might actually get a few hazelnuts this year. They don't seem to have squirrels on this plot. I think that the alley cats scared them off. But yeah. And here we have the delicate Mirabelle Blossom. So it's late February and it's out. Don't know whether this lot will ever get pollinated, but basically it's an early plum, isn't it? I've propagated this. I've had lots grow over onto my side. Just noticed that the planet looks like Venus is up there. That was a nice end to the evening down here at the allotment, so got a bit more done here today than usual, only because the rain's held off because it's been relentless. It's a bitter wind, but before any snow comes I might as well get some of those odd jobs done. Well, that's it from me today on this wind-blown allotment. I'll crack on with pollinating as many of those sloes, blackthorn sloes, as I can, as quickly as I can. Don't know if it'll help, but certainly can't see any pollinators around in this weather. There's a vicious wind, vicious crosswind.